Alright, so we got Kong vs. Godzilla dropping in like a week, and even earlier for some other lucky people. So I thought this is an appropriate time for me to make a Godzilla video. And what better video to make than one of me ranking all the films that will probably make me loved and hated equally by the fanbase. Maybe hated more. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. The Godzilla franchise is so big, there's just so many movies, and it offers something different to each person, and that's what I love about it. That said, I've decided to be an absolute madman and try to rank these movies. Let's get started. First off, this is not in any order whatsoever. It's kind of annoying actually, so I'm going to rearrange this and do some changes to the actual tiers. They're kind of basic. First of all, S, that's a little simple. Let's try Ultra God Tier Mega Busted Movie. A, really good. That's pretty good. B, pretty good. C, it's all right. D, and F, garbage. It's a little inappropriate, isn't it? Let's try, you know what, garbage is a harsh word. Let's just try trash. Trash. That's, you know, it's a little rude, but it's also being generous at the same time. Not really. It's pretty bad. Okay, so this is not in any order. Can I rearrange this? Nice. All right. Let me take a minute here to put this in order best I can.
Then some Godzilla, Destroyah monsters, Godzilla Revenge, then Small Monster, and then Gigan, then Megalon, then MechaGodzilla. The 3T is also something I remember off the top of my head. Okay, alright, show them. Oh shit, alright, where's 84, and then where it is, Biollante, see it. Alright, Biollante, where is this? Ghidorah, and then Mothra, and then Megaguirus 2, and then SpaceGodzilla. Yeah. And then Godzilla vs. And Godzilla 2000. Megaguirus? Megaguirus, Gigan, that's Godzilla. So I guess against Godzilla. Godzilla's Final Wars. 2014, Shin.
Okay, I think I did this right. I did this off the top of my head, so I think I got this in the right order. I also noticed that there are no, there's no King of the Monsters original 56 or 1985, so I guess this is just first releases going by. So we have the very first movie, Gojira, the one that started it all. I mean, were you really expecting it to go anywhere else? This is the first movie. It's a beautiful film with an amazing message, really ahead of its time. Every time I watch it, I'm just in love with it. Sure, some of the practical effects don't stand the test of time completely, but it's still a fun movie. And it's what started this whole franchise. Alright. And right after that, they popped out Godzilla Raids Again. Literally a year after the original Gojira came out. This is a hard one to place. Because it's actually not a good movie, by any means. But god damn is it fun to watch. And it also introduces the trope of Godzilla fighting another monster, Megaguirus, his first opponent. And I pray for the poor souls that watch this dub for the first time. Fun fact, George Takei actually voices the main character in this, and he also did the main character in the English dub for Rodan. I'm gonna put this one at it's alright, because it's not really good, but it's so damn iconic at the same time. Now we have Godzilla vs. King Kong. King Kongu! This, 1963, so there was a bit of time between this and, actually 62 in Japan, I believe, and 63 in the States. There's a bit of time between this and Raids Again, the second Godzilla film. They had some other monsters get some movies. They had Rodan, Mothra, Varan, you know, a bunch of other monsters, but they're like, okay, we gotta bring back our big boy here versus America's big boy. So I actually rewatched this and all the Showa films before doing this because it had been a while since I watched them, and this movie is not good. And a lot of it doesn't hold up very well. And I mean like some very questionable things, like... But this also has King Kong fighting Godzilla, and it wasn't even originally gonna be King Kong vs. Godzilla. It was originally gonna be Frankenstein's monster vs. Godzilla, which a lot of those elements from the script were left in there, which leads some questionable moments, such as King Kong getting powered up by lightning. Either way, the fight's iconic, but so much of the film just... I'm gonna put it at meh for now. I may return to this. Now we have Mothra vs. Gojira. Haha. Oh, come on. Don't even sit there and debate this with me. It's one of the best Godzilla films ever made, and it features Mothra, one of the most iconic kaiju outside of Godzilla, facing off against Godzilla. And it's just so good. The story is so good, the characters are fun, and the fights are so awesome. It's just a good movie. It deserves Ultra God Tier Mega Busted. Really good. It's not even doing it justice. It is an Ultra God Tier Mega Busted movie. And I'm kind of on the fence about the next one too, Ghidorah. I can't decide if it deserves really good or pretty good. I feel like it belongs in really good because it is a really good movie. It introduces Ghidorah, arguably Godzilla's arch nemesis, and lots of fun characters in this movie. It has Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan teaming up against Ghidorah because the opponent is just too powerful. I'm gonna put it at really good. I am. There are some weird things about the movie, but they don't necessarily hold up, but it's still a fun watch. Now we go to Invasion of Astro Monster, also known as Monster Zero in the West. Whew, this movie. I love it. I love everything about it. It's so goofy. It's so wild. It's so stupid. I love it. And it's like, a lot of these movies coming up get really goofy. To the point to where it's kind of irritating. Unless you grew up watching these. I grew up watching a lot of these, however, a lot of these movies were also hard to find, so some of them I didn't watch until I got older. Which really kind of dings the initial impression of these films. This movie is just so good. It's so fun, it's so crazy. You got aliens wearing elf shoes, and we have, of course, Miss Nakakawa. Which brings us to where it starts to get a little... weird. We have Godzilla versus the sea monster, or Ebirah, horror of the deep. Godzilla fights a big lobster, basically. To me, this movie feels the most 60s out of all the 60s movies that come out. This one just stands out to me as being just so 60s. Yeah, so, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's a lot of fun to watch, but it's one of those movies that I kind of just feel drags on a little too long. It has its moments, but the entire film, it feels kind of lacking. For that, I'm gonna put it at, it's alright. It's not too bad, but it's not one of my favorites. Now we have Son of Godzilla. Initially, I would have put this at meh, but upon rewatching it, I found myself enjoying it a bit more, and I'm not entirely sure why. The character, Son of Godzilla, Minya, is so fucking annoying and ugly as shit that you don't really understand how this is the son of the king of the monsters. But it's also kind of cute in a weird way, and well, the human characters are pretty fun and interesting. A lot of the returning cast from previous movies in this one, as is a trend with these movies typically. But I think for the time being, I'm gonna put it at it's alright. Destroy all monsters. This most certainly is a weird one for me. Primarily for the fact that everything besides for the monsters in this movie is pretty boring. The whole concept are there's aliens that are using the monsters to go crazy. The aliens aren't really that interesting. I do like the idea of them controlling certain humans which probably one of the few highlights of the story of this movie, but for the most part, it really just shines with the monster fights. That said, it really is enjoyable, especially if you're a toddler, so I have 2 minutes alright, so I'm going to put that pretty good, because this one does have a strong fan base, and a lot of people would probably put it in their top 2. Me personally, I find it lacking in too many departments, and I should have mentioned this from the beginning. I am looking at this not only as good as a Godzilla film, but how good it is as a film in general. Which is stupid to do for a Godzilla movie, I know, but it's the only way I can go through this without putting all of these in Ultra God tier Mega Busted movie. So next one, Godzilla's Revenge. Trash. Next one. Okay, I guess I ought to explain myself. It's Godzilla's Revenge. Or Godzilla on Monster Island. It's fucking trash. It's bad. It is a bad movie. Most of it is stock footage, and the stuff that isn't is kind of unbearable to watch. Only people I've ever seen enjoy this movie are people that have grown up with it. I did not have that advantage, so I hate it. This is probably the only movie I can say with every fiber of my being that I just flat out do not like this movie for anything whatsoever.
Don't be afraid.
It's just not good. I gotta just say it. It's not good. Minya talks. There's a little kid going around having drugged out dreams about Godzilla. It's the movie that I am most prone to skip during my Godzilla marathons. It's just not that good. Speaking of drugged out trips, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the smog monster. This was a lot of people's first Godzilla movie back in the day. It was not mine. Mine was Mothra vs. Godzilla 1962, of course, or 1964, and of course I didn't see it back then. I'm only 20 years old, for God's sake. But this movie, very 70s, very druggy, very anti-pollution, I think. The director of this film actually got fired from Toho because when the producer Tomoyuki Tanaka saw it, he was disgusted by this movie. A lot of people do love this movie though. I think mostly Western fans. It's really goofy and it has some highlights, but oh my god, last time I watched this movie, I couldn't help but just keep checking the time and wondering when it was going to be over. So I'm putting it a meh. I'm sorry, I am not a Smog Monster fan. It is just... I might have liked it when I was probably 6 years old, but I unfortunately grew out of that. Next one, Godzilla vs. Gigan. This is an interesting movie. Once again, borrowing a lot of tropes with aliens and controlling monsters and whatnot. But this one has Godzilla and Anguirus fight off against Ghidorah and a new monster, Gigan, whose design is really cool and weird at the same time. I really appreciate that though. I'm kind of beside myself where I want to put this. There are a lot of fun things about this movie. There's some hippies, there's a karate girl. It's pretty interesting, so I'll put it at, it's alright. It's worth a watch. I won't necessarily skip it, but this might be one that I'll put in the background if I'm cooking or something. Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's not good. It's not. Godzilla fights a beetle. That's the basic premise. There's people on the ground, and there's a beetle, and they want to take over or destroy humanity or take over Tokyo, something like that. This movie has titties in it. A little known fact, if you look really closely at someone's car, he has a poster of naked women on the back, so that's cool. But yeah, the only redeemable thing about this movie is fucking Jet Jaguar. Oh man, I love Jet Jaguar. He is just so out there, and if I remember correctly, I believe that this was the one that was made by a fan. And because of that, because of Jet Jaguar, I really want to put it at it's alright. Hell, I'll even put it at pretty good. Oh, I don't know though, because putting it on pretty good just because of one fucking character is not redeemable. I'm gonna put it at meh for now. for now. Alright, MechaGodzilla. The first MechaGodzilla film, 1974. This is an interesting one as well. It introduces one of the most famous characters in the Godzilla franchise, MechaGodzilla. And really interesting concept with it too, having him disguised as the real Godzilla being bad and stuff. It almost looks like that's kind of the direction that Kong vs. Godzilla is going, but I don't know. I don't want to be right about that, but that movie looks kind of iffy to me regardless. Anyway, this it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The only thing that's keeping me from putting it at really good is a particular character that I believe only resurfaces once. And that is King Caesar. King Caesar. His design is so derpy, and not in the good way. And there's this song that a character sings to summon him, which lasts 3 fucking minutes long. So, that aside, I'll put it at pretty good, because it does introduce MechaGodzilla, who looks really cool, especially given the time. I think it really works. A very good installment in the Showa films. Now the last film of the Showa era, Terror of MechaGodzilla. Oh man, this movie. So it's basically a direct sequel to Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. It introduces Titanosaurus, who I believe doesn't ever show up again after this movie. And yeah, Godzilla fights a big fish and Mechagodzilla. And the fight, I don't even remember being that... I don't know, the fight was weird because there was a lot of human conflict going on in the middle of this with a cyborg and a crazy scientist and aliens, as usual for Showa. It's a very interesting movie. There are a lot of things about it that took me out of this movie, so I'm gonna put it at meh. And like I said, things are liable to change towards the end once I get all these movies listed, but now we move into my favorite era of Godzilla films, and that apparently makes me a bad fan for some reason, but I love HEISEI, the 80s, the 90s era. It had the best movies, the best stories, in my opinion. The monsters looked awesome. The costumes were at their best, even better than Millennium in my opinion. But the first installment, Godzilla 1984, also known as The Return of Godzilla, and in the West known as Godzilla 1985. If you couldn't figure it out, it came out in 1984. I like this movie. I don't give a shit what other people say. I like this movie. And I am showing a bit of favoritism just to the 80s in general, but it's pretty good. It's a direct sequel to the original film, ignoring all of this junk. It's a direct sequel to the original film, bringing Godzilla back. I would definitely say the Japanese is a lot better than the Western release. They attempted to do another King of the Monsters where they brought Raymond Burr back and had a bunch of other American scenes that just felt really out of place. It was really weird. It was not nearly as memorable as King of the Monsters, referring to the original 1956 film. So, yeah, I don't know. The Western release is kind of weird. It's also really rare. I own a VHS copy of it, and that is the only official way to get it. Or I think there might be a Laserdisc as well. But it never came out on DVD and Blu-ray because there were some copyright problems with some music that was used in the movie. Now, moving on to the next film, Godzilla vs. Biollante. This is one of the proudest things I own in my film collection. One of the rarest Blu-rays for the Godzilla films. It's also one of my proudest items because it's my favorite Godzilla movie. I said it. It's my favorite Godzilla movie. Why? I'm not even 100% sure, but every time I watch this movie, I'm in love with it. Every single aspect, from the characters to the music to the monster to the story, just everything is just, it is the best since the original, in my opinion. Of course, and I'm saying outside of the original is obviously the best Godzilla movie ever made, but Godzilla vs. Biollante is probably the second best. Mothra vs. Godzilla is a contender, of course, kind of depending on the viewer, really, but Godzilla vs. Biollante is just so damn good. It also introduces Megami Otaka, who plays the only character to be in the most consistent sequels, Miki, who is in from this film all the way to Destroyah, the final film in the era. She plays the same character for almost an entire era of Godzilla films. No one else has done that. That's freaking phenomenal. Moving on to the next one, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This is a really good movie, and there are a lot of goofy aspects about it. And the reason this movie was made with Ghidorah because Biollante was a great movie but didn't do so well in theaters because people wanted to see one of the old monsters come back, and so they brought Ghidorah, his arch nemesis, back. This movie introduced a lot of cool things. It's also the only Godzilla film to have time travel and some really questionable Caucasian actors in it as well. A lot of questionable things with World War II segments as well. Other than that, it has Godzilla fighting Ghidorah in one of the coolest fights in the whole franchise, and it has MechaGodzilla. MegaGuirus. I don't know what else I can say. That's just awesome. It's a really good movie. Now the Godzilla vs. Mothra. Okay, this one's weird to me. Honestly, it's probably my least favorite of the HEISEI films. I know a lot of people really like Batra, which is basically an evil Mothra who teams up with Mothra to defeat Godzilla. Yeah, it's weird. This movie's weird. The story and characters are really cool though. I like the idea. I don't know, it's like there's this kid and her parents are split and then they get caught up in this Godzilla mess and now they have to, you know, work together and eventually rekindle their flame. It's cute. I like that. So I'm gonna put it at it's alright for now, but it may move up to pretty good. We'll see. Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla II. Not entirely sure why it's called 2, probably because the fact that it's the second iteration of MechaGodzilla. I like this movie. It's got Rodan in it. It's got Godzilla Jr., who is just so damn cute. I love it. I love everything about it. It's just so good. That said, I'm putting it at pretty good because it's just so cool. And MechaGodzilla looks really good in this movie as well too. This is probably my favorite MechaGodzilla besides for the Against MechaGodzilla, which is titled Kiryu. That brings us to our next installment, SpaceGodzilla. This is the one I'm kind of indifferent about. I like it, but it's also one that I remember the least for some reason. It seems like it's kind of like that movie that's kind of just there. Like, oh, it's the movie before Destroyah. SpaceGodzilla is a really cool design, a really cool character, a really cool kaiju that we don't see again. And don't let the title deceive you. The only film with Godzilla to go into space is Invasion of Astro Monster. This movie is about a mutant space creature, Godzilla-like thing that was created by Mothra leaving into space. It's weird kaiju movie logic, you know. That said, it has a lot of really cool special effects. And Godzilla Jr. looks cute again. So that's another fun thing. Lots of cool set designs too. I really like those. And I think I'm gonna put that at pretty good as well. Godzilla vs. Destroyah. I am so tempted to put this at Ultra God Tier Mega Busted, but I'm gonna put it at really good. This is the film that that ended the Heisei era and ended Godzilla as a character, really. Very sad, very tragic movie, and also really cool ending. I don't want to say too much for those who haven't seen it, though I might have just kind of let it slip there. But this is definitely one I recommend to people to watch who don't want to watch all of these, but I'd honestly recommend all the Heisei films. But Destroyah, and also Destroyah as a character, is one of the most fucking terrifying kaiju designs out there. He looks like the literal devil. And And we also have the introduction of Burning Godzilla, which is a fan favorite Godzilla design. So with the end of that, we come to TriStar. TriStar had acquired the rights to make an American Godzilla film, directed by Roland Emmerich, who made Independence Day. This is probably the hardest topic to talk about the Godzilla community. Most diehard Godzilla fans will just flat out say it's trash. It's, you know, bad movie. Purists or people who saw this in the 90s and it was probably their first Godzilla movie are probably the only ones that actually really love this movie. I don't think a normal person would love this movie. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I can see both sides of it. The biggest downside of this film is the character. Godzilla is just not Godzilla. They shares almost absolutely no traits, and it's kind of pitiful when comparing it to our favorite Japanese giant lizard. There's also a lot of early CG effects in this, which look like pretty bad PS2 game, fitting in with the movie. But aside from that, looking at the movie as a whole, it's pretty decent, just as a monster movie. The characters are annoying and unlikable, but in a fun way, I suppose, in a B-movie way. I don't know, this movie is just hard for me to put. And whenever there's no CG but practical effects, they look really good. I should note that too. The practical effects of this movie look awesome. So I am not going to put this in trash. I'm not. I'm going to put it in meh. Because it is a good movie, just a bad Godzilla movie. This is pretty much the definitive way to describe that film. Like I said, only people that saw this originally in the 90s or saw this as their first Godzilla movie love this. And that's you know, that's cool. That's cool for them, you know. If it got them to love the franchise, that's cool. I don't understand how someone could like that better than the original Godzilla in any shape or form, but you know, you do you. It's a big franchise. There's a lot of movies out there. But that said, Toho wanted to come back, and they did with Godzilla 2000, which actually came out in 1999. This movie it's pretty good. It's got some weird stuff in it, but the human characters are very likable. It's also kind of nostalgic for me to return to these films because I grew up early 2000s. So the whole Millennium arc is very nostalgic for me. These are movies that came out when I was growing up. But even still, I'm more prone to enjoying the HEISEI ones. Regardless, Godzilla 2000 is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna put it at pretty good. And that brings us to Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. It's okay. I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. The only real notable thing about it is the fucking Godzilla belly flop. It's Godzilla fighting against some obscure bug kaijus from the Rodon film. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot of early 2000s things thrown into this movie which I like. But as a Godzilla movie, it's... Actually, I think giving it alright is generous. I think it belongs in meh, to be entirely honest with you. Now we have GMK. Really good. This is one that makes Godzilla a bad guy again, and this time Ghidorah is the good guy, working with Mothra against Godzilla. Also, probably, I think, the longest title in the entire franchise. But, yeah, this one's really cool. I really like the human characters in this one. I like the conflict, and they really change up Godzilla's origin story, which is really weird, but really cool. I feel like I've said that about every movie in this franchise, but that's usually how it goes with this. But after that, we come back to Godzilla against MechaGodzilla, and I should note that this uses the Millennium design, which I'm not really that fond of. GMK had its own unique design, but Godzilla 2000 Megaguirus had the Millennium design, which I've never really been too big on. I mean, he looks cool, alright. I mean, better than SHOWA, I guess. not the original, but better than... Yeah. Not better than HEISEI. HEISEI's Biollante and Ghidorah, that's the best Godzilla design to date that has not been topped by any shape or form. But against Mechagodzilla, this is a cool one where the Mechagodzilla was built off of the bones of the original Godzilla who was destroyed by the Oxygen Destroyer. Oh yeah, continuity by this point is non-existent. Most of these films just have their own relation to the original and not with anything else. A lot of people really love this one. To me, it's, you know, it's alright. I put it on and I enjoy it. But this one's kind of hard to place. I have too many and pretty good, so I'll put it in it's alright. And I feel kind of the same about Tokyo SOS, which to me is just a companion film to against MechaGodzilla. And I should also note that the actresses playing the Shobijin are pretty cool in these, but not as iconic as the Peanuts in the original Mothra. That said, I think, yeah, I feel kind of the same about both these movies, so I just put them right next to each other. People that grew up with these really love them. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Main character, really cool. Fights are pretty cool, but I don't know. I've never really been too big on these Mechagodzilla films. That brings us to Godzilla Final Wars. Oh boy, you want to talk about a division in the fan base. You have Final Wars. I have no shame. I have no shame. This movie is really good. It is basically what every 10-year-old Godzilla fan wants to see. Godzilla fighting against almost every damn kaiju in the franchise, not even just Godzilla, and just kaiju from Toho in general. He even faces off against the 1998 Godzilla, which is cool. And Sum 41 does some of the soundtracks for the movie. Sum 41! That's awesome! There's so many cool things about this movie. So many things that are really interesting. But I like it anyway. It's just, this movie is just so much fun. It is probably one of the most fun movies to watch. You can really just shut your brain off and not be like, but be more like, it's just, it's Godzilla Final Wars. That's it. And not just Sum 41 soundtrack, but some of the soundtracks, like OSTs in this film, are just top tier. If I had to rank the soundtracks, this would be an ultra god tier, mega busted movie soundtrack. Okay, so 10 years later, the next Godzilla film, Godzilla 2014. This is a kicker right here. This is an interesting one. This one has a good story, for the most part, but everything else about it is lacking. The monster fights are severely disappointing, and I'll just say it, I'm not that fond of the hammerhead design of Godzilla, the legendary design. I mean, it's cool, it's a new look for him, but I don't know, doesn't beat HEISEI by any means. Because when I think of Godzilla, I think of like this, not that. And for the most part, it's hard to see him in the movie because it's so damn dark. Thankfully, the 4K actually came out today, and I'm picking up my copy after this. And the remaster just looks absolutely beautiful. And that, hell, maybe seeing it in a clearer light might actually change my opinion on this movie. But I'm gonna put it at pretty good. Now we have Shin Godzilla. When I first watched this movie, I thought, oh, everyone's gonna love this. This is the best Godzilla movie in years. I was surprised to find out there were people that didn't like this movie. Like, genuinely surprised. I was like, how did you not like this movie? It is the first Godzilla movie to be like Godzilla since the original Godzilla, in the fact that humanity's hubris has created this monster, or brought this monster up to take care of business. And it's humans versus Godzilla again. And upon other viewings of this film, I have felt quite indifferent about some of the things with it, but For the most part, it's a great Godzilla movie. It is one of the best. And because of that, I'm... man. It is a great movie, but I don't think it deserves Ultra God Tier Mega Busted. Because it kind of defeats the purpose if there's too many titles there. So I'm going to put it at really good. Now we have the anime trilogy. I don't even think that this is in the right order, but it doesn't matter. They all have their spot there. I said what I said. I was so disappointed. I don't even think I've been more disappointed in a single thing than I was in the anime trilogy. Godzilla plus anime should equal awesome. This was the opposite of that. The first biggest flaw of this thing was the fact that watching this, it felt like something that could have been done in live action. That's not what I want to see in an animated Godzilla film. I want to see something that's just so off the charts that it's just impossible. And you're sitting there thinking, how on earth could they do a big Godzilla that pushes humanity to extinction? A lot of things can happen with the right budget and a lot of CG. Not necessarily good things, but it could happen. It wasn't for me. It had cool ideas. It had and that's actually, you know what? That is the biggest flaw. These movies had so many cool ideas that just went nowhere. They introduced ideas and they just flopped. It's like the Disney Star Wars trilogy. You have so many good ideas thrown out there, and then you just forget about that. Here's something else. Here's some stupid bullshit no one cares about. It. And the animation, CG, 3D anime, it's not good. It doesn't look good. They should have just did it 2D style, or they should have did it like Lupin. That, I mean, it looked kind of Pixar-esque, but it looked really good. I was just so disappointed with the anime trilogy. It actually hurts me to think about it, but yeah. And now Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. I hate that they called it Godzilla King of the Monsters when there's already a movie called that. Well, the franchise is big, you don't need duplicating titles. It's just annoying. This movie probably has one of the worst stories. Very disappointed with the cast too, because a lot of good actors and actresses are in this film. Vera Farmiga, Kyle Chandler. A lot of people like Millie Bobby Brown from what's that show? Stranger Things. And she was pretty good in this movie. I'll give her that. But I don't know. The story in this one just wasn't that good. But it did make up for the fact that the fights looked phenomenal. The visuals were a lot more improved from 2014. And the soundtracks. They actually brought back a lot of classic soundtracks, which was really cool to hear on the big screen. But the things that I didn't like about Godzilla 2014 were fixed in this one. But the things that I did like in Godzilla 2014 were removed from this one. So I see these films on the same level. I see them on the same pedestal. They're just equal in good and bad. So this is the first draft, I suppose. And for the most part, I think I'm actually pretty content with this. This pretty much shows how I feel about these movies. And let me just go ahead and say, this is my personal opinion. I know some people watching this in the comments are going to go ballistic on me for putting, I don't know, Biollante at S tier and then having Smog Monster and meh. I don't know. I like what I like. This is the internet. People are going to hate me or love me. Some are going to probably agree. Some are probably going to be very, very vocal about not agreeing with me. But that's cool, you know. It's cool. Just put in the comments what your personal favorites are. Maybe not the entire listing. That'll be a big comment. But it would be cool to see differing views on this. I would like to go back to doing a Godzilla-thon like I did before, where I talked about all the movies individually, things that I liked, didn't like, reviewed them. I'd probably wait till Kong vs. Godzilla comes out on home video, actually, for that. But yeah, and I should mention, this is obviously before Kong vs. Godzilla has come out. I said that at the beginning of the video. But yeah, this is it. This is my listing, my tier ranking for the Godzilla films. Like I said, feel free to share what your favorites are in the comments, and thank you for watching if you made it this far. And I will see you all next time.